I'm Amanda Orenchuk. I'm the Director of Community Development for the Village of Mundelein. I'm going to talk today about a little bit of an economic development update for 2023. We're midway through the year and have had a lot of activity happening, so we wanted to share what's going on. Mundelein is located in central Lake County, Illinois. We are really well situated with great access to various airports, including Milwaukee, Midway, O'Hare, Wheeling Executive Airport, and Waukegan airports. We also have a train station in Mundelein that is the Metro commuter train, and Pace Bus has several stops throughout the community. We have various bike trails that are also accessible and give great recreation opportunities and mobility opportunities throughout the region. By the numbers, so just a little bit about the village in terms of the numbers. So our population is around 31,500. We expect that to actually be a little bit higher than that. During the 2020 census, we think there might have been some undercount just a little bit. We've also had a series of larger home developments that have been completed or under construction, so that number is sure to increase. We have 11,000 households as well. Median income is around $91,000, which is pretty average for this area, average and above average. In terms of labor force, 96.7% of our labor force in the village is employed, and then Redfin has median home sales prices just shy of $350,000. Median home value is $241,000, and then businesses, we are a little over 1,000 businesses within the village. So pretty robust economy, pretty varied in scale. We have quite a bit of industrial users and also commercial users. We're not that heavy on office, so fortunately for us, we haven't been hit very hard by the office market, but we do have some office buildings in the community that are pretty well filled up. So just a little background on our industrial. So the village has had some industrial vacancies, deficiency really. We haven't had a lot of industrial vacancy to bring in new business. So we were hovering around 3 and 4% vacancy for a long time, and then over the last couple of years, we've had a couple of industrial buildings, such as there's one at 1300 Allenson Road. It's a 195,000 square foot building, clear heights of at least 36 foot with loading docks. These two, there's two tenants that are in this space now. So as fast as it went on market, it's also off market. In terms of the process for the village from the time that this project was presented as a concept all the way through getting a CO, it was approximately 18 months for that process. So pretty quick in terms of everything entitlement and construction. Another industrial opportunity that we have is a 320,000 square foot industrial space by Bridgepoint Development. That also has taller ceiling heights, 36-foot clear heights, loading docks, about 32 of those, and it's a divisible space. This project just wrapped up its construction and is available for some tenancy. There has been some interest in the site, so we are hopeful to bring in some new business here. So we're just waiting to see how some of those talks go, but as they haven't signed yet, so always an opportunity available for any interested parties. And then we have another site at 750 Allenson Road. This is a 19-acre site that Misner Group has purchased and is building as a spec site. They are looking to break ground shortly to build an industrial building there as well. And we are hopeful that they will get tenants pretty quickly. We hear that there's already been some conversations with potential tenants there as well. So pretty robust industrial market here, and certainly some opportunities of other locations for industrial throughout the village. I forgot to mention on the previous slide that that bridge project also required an annexation and a rezoning. That project was also from concept to construction and CO about 15 to 18 months. So again, quick process. If there's certainly appropriate site for a use, the village definitely wants to help make sure that these projects get done in a timely manner. So one area that we did focus on over the last couple of years since we had a economic development kind of update was looking at our Village Hall subdivision, and we've been really working on looking at executing redevelopment agreements, utilizing our master plans for the area, and also looking at the zoning and a good fit for partnerships within the area to redevelop. So this is where our new Village Hall was located back in 2014 when it opened, and we've been working and looking for partners to redevelop the sites. So just a little bit of background, this was the 5-acre building and 5 acres of pavement that was there previously. It was an old manufacturing site that occupied the area in around the 1950s, 1960s. And then the village acquired the land, and it's right next to where the metro station is. Our TOD plan called for this development within its within the 2004 TOD plan to add density and village green space and to de-industrialize the downtown. Industrial isn't bad by any means, as I said in the previous part of this presentation. We really do want industrial. The issue that we've come into is that the industrial that we've had doesn't quite, like the roadways around there don't quite work for trucks. The ceiling heights are low. The spaces aren't good for kind of the warehousing and logistics that are needed today. So as these businesses have modernized and the spaces are not quite adequate for what they are, but they are prime spaces for adaptive reuses and redevelopments for the downtown. And again, this is near our train station, so certainly an area to reintroduce some residential and service uses, restaurants, things of that nature. So we've done that with quite a few sites in the downtown. There are actually not that many left, but this was one of them. And the idea is obviously a walkable downtown that feels good and invites people into the space. And since we don't have a lot of historic kind of buildings within that downtown, we're really creating some new environments, new feel to this, and not trying to create something that is inauthentic to what the village is. And so since the time that we built the new Village Hall, there have been some pedestrian bridge completion over the railroad tracks for access to the metro and this area. Cardinal Square's been constructing D1 and D2, which are each 90-unit apartment buildings. They're twin buildings that are across the tracks, and you can see Building A, kind of the multi-story building on the right, and just to the right of that off picture is D1 and D2. And then Station 250 is a residential apartment building that is to the south of the Village Hall. So there's like a patio with a sidewalk kind of on the lower portion of the screen. To that area, that green kind of rectangle is where the Station 250 project is locating. And you'll see some of that in these other shots here that I have. So lots 2, 4, 3, and 5 are all the available spaces. Lot 3 is where Station 250 is, and we'll get to lots 2, 4, and 5. And then the Village Hall you can see on the screen here. So plans for the Village Hall Center, here's Station 250. This is the architecture that is on the circle. So we would be standing in the center of the Village Circle Plaza, and this is the view between the Village Hall and that new apartment building. So then on the balance of the site, we were looking for a partner, and Flaherty & Collins, a group out of the Indianapolis area, they have partnered with us to build an apartment building across from the Village Hall, and then also do townhouses and some commercial up closer to Holly Street. And so this is the architecture that is for the building there, and the village approved a redevelopment agreement with them at the end of May. So that project is moving forward through the permitting and construction phases. And then this is just the kind of the overhead view of what that looks like. So as I said, there's the project to the south of the Village Hall, which is that kind of upside down L. And then there's kind of a squiggly weird thing across from the Village Hall, which is the Flaherty and Collins building that has deck parking there as well, structured parking, and then townhouses up towards the north on both sides of the Chicago northern extension, and then that kind of pinkish color is the proposed commercial pad that is closer to Holly Street. So other areas of focus within the downtown. So with some of our projects, we've also needed to do some improvements to infrastructure. So we've improved some alleyways, we've added parking, and so these are responding to some of the demand that we're seeing in the area for public amenities and infrastructure. And we also are working with some property owners behind our Lake Street buildings between Park Street and Holly Street to resurface and actually reconstruct the parking lots back there to make some more public parking, sort of easements with all those property owners, and also bury the utility lines and enhance that area and really make it a spot that is inviting, and you'll see why we want to invite people to downtown on the next couple slides. So we heard loud and clear from our residents and businesses and visitors that they want a place in Mundelein that feels like a place that they can go out to, they can relax, those third spaces that you hear about, a place that feels like it's an area that you could spend a lot of time in and get a little bit rejuvenated or socialize, things of that nature. So the village has worked over the last couple of years to implement some of that area and placemaking into this Park Street design and area. And so here is kind of the concept up to the top left, and where we've headed in terms of Park Street and partnering with the businesses with outdoor furniture. There's been a mural and implementation of a parklet that is at a location called 22 East Park. And then if you go to these pictures, you see kind of the overhead view of the park that's been constructed for the public to use. There's a pad for a food truck. There's also outdoor dining areas. So a lot of infrastructure has been put in here and investment. The alley with the access to the new parking areas also runs along that eastern side of the park. And then the businesses acquired the umbrellas and the furniture, and then the village bought the barriers, the planters, worked on the park, and now we're doing a phase 2 where we're working on lighting and an extension of this area as well. So a lot of people have had positive feedback on this project and what we've done as a village in terms of enhancements to Park Street within our formalized older downtown area. And so just another picture again of that mural and the turf here. There's a fire pit, and then if you go to this picture, you'll see kind of the lighting and the fun furniture for kids to climb on, and picnic benches for people to sit on and eat and bring food here from other places. So it's not just a focus on a couple businesses, but other people can partake, and people can rent this space out for a private event, or food trucks can come here and sign up to be here to serve food on different days. And then there's other projects going on in the area. So not just public side of things, but some more private side of things in terms of residential. This is an area that we've identified for redevelopment since around 1997 at least. And so this year we've finally seen a huge jump in terms of the redevelopment of these spaces, and you'll see on the next couple of slides. So the village owns these sites. We acquired them strategically over time, and then we worked with a developer to redevelop them as residential units. So they're kind of townhouse apartment hybrid type of unit. They have some attached garages, parking spaces, and each unit has its own separate entry, but they kind of have a townhouse feel to them. And they're smaller groupings of units, like 8 units, 10 units, so it's not like a 40 or 50 unit building and more. So very small groupings of numbers of units within these buildings. And then this is just the before and the afters of kind of what we're seeing out there. You'll see the recycling facility and kind of the ground and pavement of the old lumberyard, and then some other businesses that were located just outside of that in a residence. And those are now being constructed into those units. So we hope to see some occupancies on that towards the end of the year. And then just the outside architecture, so you can get a feel of what this area looks like. So this is Park Street, Morris, Seymour Avenue, and Route 176 are all kind of the boundaries of this project area. And we're currently in the process. There's a road reconstruction project in that area that some of it is finalized. So it's going to really change what this area feels like. Then we have a senior income assisted project. It's a 46-unit building, and it's redevelopment of an older shopping center. And then there's just been some vacant land that's been behind the shopping center that's sat there for quite some time. And this is kind of the progress of where we're at today in terms of that project. So finally I got approvals from the state of Illinois, got all the financing and the permits, so it is now under construction. Demolition is complete, and now they're working on the excavation and foundations for the building. So lots of changes, and this is on Holly Street and Prospect Avenue at that corner. Cardinal Square I mentioned previously, so we have a residential project there. So this is a developer that came to the village 2003, 2004. This is an area that was industrial. They acquired a number of the industrial sites within this area, demolished the industrial buildings, did some remediation in this area, and constructed new streets, put in some stormwater, built Building A, which is an 84-unit condo building that is now part rental, part owner. And then the recession happened, and then took a little bit of a pause. But then in 2013, they started talking about doing an additional building. That building has 65 units and was completed in 2015. And now they're working on buildings D1 and D2. And then there's a number of other buildings that are proposed under that original redevelopment agreement that was approved pre-recession, but they've stuck with it and are continuing to build within the community and have the vision come to fruition here. So still a lot of activity there happening. Here's the buildings as they are currently being constructed there. Old Village Hall. So the village, as I mentioned earlier, has built a new village hall, based kind of across the street and then a little bit west of the tracks of where our old location was. And so with that, we looked for over time a potential developer or tenant to take over this space and renovate it. The building is from the early 1920s. And just had outlived its useful life in terms of a public building. Accessibility was kind of an issue in it. There was some remediation that was needed, upgrades. If you were going to bring in a tenant that needed, like a restaurant or things like that, they needed to upgrade electrical and needed HVAC renovations and things like that. So it was very costly to update. There was a study done, and ultimately, the village ended up putting out there for either renovation or purchase, and there were really no takers up until 2019 and 2018, 2019. Then the village worked out with a developer to sell the land for $1, and then the developer proposed a new development, which is the building that you see here, and they built this with some exceptional architecture. The space, unfortunately, was finished right around when COVID hit, so finding tenants right off the bat with COVID was certainly difficult, but it's in a TIF district, so the village is getting to the tax revenue from that TIF. Since it had not always been owned as a village site, there were no taxes on it, so we are receiving the benefit of that. We did agree with them to reimburse them for certain demolition and site prep costs, and also for the public parking that is in front of the building and lighting in front of the building. But in terms of the ground up vertical construction, that's all the cost to the developer independently. And I guess I'll go back one if I can. Well, I cannot, but in terms of the development of the that building, there's certainly some opportunities for some tenancy there and some village incentives to fill those spaces. They are getting some interest in the spaces, but there are some finishes that are needed if someone is interested in them. So then bring us kind of to the southern part of the downtown, and we all remember the 2017 floods, and so the village also experienced this and went to work right away on redevelopment and rehab and identifying issues that caused that flooding. And we, working with our consultants, we identified some locations for improvements and found a spot on the south part of the downtown where that could act as a larger detention facility. And the issues were really found not in and around the area where we put the detention pond, but on the west side of the village, west of Route 45. And in working with the developer that had acquired that piece of land and our former public works building, we were able to do a land swap and work with the developer on having a developable project for the future, and also bringing in some beautification for the downtown and improving the stormwater. So the pond is now finished, and you can go and see the wetland basin that's there now. And we are currently working on this Cortland Commons is what we call it, but it's a master plan for a park-like setting that's in there. And when you look at it overhead, it looks like a guitar, neck of a guitar. And the site was previously Washburn Guitar's U.S. Music site. So that kind of gives a nod to that. And then we are looking at, putting in the improvements later this summer. And so this should be completed by the fall, if not end of 2023. And then we will start to have local festivals and things of that nature within this area. So really a transformation of an area that was industrial previously, and also fixes a stormwater issue that we've had in the community. And then just to kind of talk about a couple other things we have going on around downtown. So we have 3 breweries, 2 that are open, 1 that's coming soon. And so Tighthead Brewery, Bosacki's, and Tonality are the 3 breweries within the area. So kind of become a little bit of a destination for these businesses, and they seem to be doing really well, and each have their own little niche, and hopefully bring in additional visitors to the community for days to come. And I know everybody enjoys just being able to sit and relax and hang out and have a conversation around these places. And just to reflect a little bit. So, I had a developer friend ask me one time, what I thought about all this development, and how, looking at the progress, that we must be just amazed and proud at what we've done. And I had to take a step back, because you're usually just so in the moment with it that you don't think about these things like you should, and you really should step back and really reflect, what you've accomplished, and think about, where were you, where have we been, where are we headed. And so I did a little bit of this recently. So I looked at a 2005 aerial, and I put some dots on a map. So this is the 2005 aerial with the 10 acres of industrial where the village hall currently sits, and the recycling facility and the lumber yard and the industrial buildings where the Cardinal Square project is located, and then the industrial where the U.S. Music site was located, that's now the detention pond. And there's been so much that has occurred. And so if you look at the current aerial from April of 2023, this is the activity since 2005. And we've got new buildings in red, major renovations, demolition, public infrastructure. And this doesn't even include like new tenants, small renovations, facade improvements, RDAs that are approved and hopefully going to be under construction soon. So, you know, there's been a lot of things that have occurred, you know, things like bike racks that have gone in and, you know, the Stars on Parade that we have. So much to just think about and reflect on, that, you know, there has been a lot going on in the community. So I just wanted to share that as just a reflection, because sometimes, you know, you hear there hasn't been a lot going on, you know, what have we done? And when you sit back and you just really look at it, a lot has occurred. And even with a recession and a COVID pandemic, you know, I think we have done quite a bit. So in terms of infill residential development, I'll just quickly go through some of these things that have been occurring. So if you're driving around the community, you might see these. So we have a TIF district that was adopted in 2021 along Town Line Road and South Route 45. That kind of covers Patriots Plaza, kind of Garden Fresh Shopping Center area, Yale Shopping Center area, and then Oak Creek Plaza Shopping Center. So D.R. Horton is constructing 222 townhouses there. They have pre-sales that are available. Those have been around the $350,000 mark. This is the layout of the site. X Factor Trampoline is kind of its own owner, but they did redo the parking lot for X Factor. That's now complete. And then they are really making some headway on the buildings there. There's probably been about 9 of the buildings constructed. They do have models open now, so really making some progress on that redevelopment of an old shopping center where Menards used to be located, and before that there was Hobby Lobby and Cub Foods and so forth. And unfortunately, just as time goes on, you know, some of these shopping centers without the reinvestment needed to be kind of reconfigured and revisioned. And so fortunately we've had a developer come in that has revisioned this and is looking at doing a large enhancement project along the Oak Creek to the west as well. So we should be seeing even more improvements as time goes on. And then Maple Hill, this is a little bit older subdivision, but I just wanted to kind of show what's happening in the market here in the village. So we've had, that was a 63 unit subdivision. It was formerly a commercial site, and then it was sold they were selling in the mid 400s in 2019, and now they're reselling in the mid 500s. So we're seeing certainly an elevation in terms of the property values in the community. Some growth areas. So out by Maple Hill, which is at 176 and 6083, if you go a little bit further north on Route 60, across from Mundelein Crossing Shopping Center, where Target is located, is Sheldon Woods. Sheldon Woods is a 192 unit project that's proposed by, under construction, I should say, by Pulte. They're within the last 3 months, when I checked on Redfin, the last 3 months of sales have been between 550 to 676,000. So that's what they're you know, closing at in terms of the sales. There's bike paths here, sidewalks, there's neighborhood parks, there's a large community park and wetland preserves in this area, and of course great access to shopping just across the street. And here's the you know, entryway sign and some of the homes that have already been constructed. Then we have LENNAR building behind the Target Shopping Center, the crossings of Mundelein. It's 182 townhouses. When looking at Redfin, the last 3 months of sales have been between 340,000 to 415,000 for what the closings have been registering as. In terms of the options for the houses, they have a front load option and a rear load option. There's also sidewalks, walking paths, nature preserve, wetlands, a little neighborhood park, and again, also great access to some shopping within close proximity. And then here's the look of the 2 different types, the traditional and the urban, the front load and the rear load options. So another project that I would definitely be remiss if I didn't bring up is a project called Ivanhoe Village. This is a proposed project on the west side of the village. So as you go out by Mundelein Crossings and Sheldon Woods and the crossings of Mundelein, just north and west of there is an old farmstead that the Wirtz family has owned since the mid-1800s. And there's about 700 acres that are located out there, and they are proposing for a brand new development in the village. And the project is based on new urbanism, and so they've hired a company called TPC Co-Design. They are known for these, what they call traditional neighborhood developments, and they have been doing this for a very long time. They have projects everywhere from Florida to Maryland, Texas, North Carolina, etc. So you'll see a lot of different projects on their website that are similar to what they are trying to do in this location. They've been very successful, and it's hard to explain like without visually seeing. So these are just some of the examples of what the built product is. But the idea is you've got these narrower streets, lots of sidewalks, great streetscaping, simple but architecture that has longevity to it. So it almost feels like you don't quite know when it was built, if it was today or if it was like a historic village. There's also architecture that I've seen in some of these communities where they have also a modern flair or a Nordic flair to them. So you can have different types and styles of housing in these, and even mix and match them within that same community. And so this is Newtown St. Charles in Missouri. There's the Kentlands in Maryland. There's another one, Norton Commons, outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And so these are examples of these communities, and Carlton Landing in Oklahoma. So if you are interested, certainly go check out the website and the sites for these different communities and get a feel for what's being proposed. But the 700 acres, this is the concept plan. It's a long plan in terms of how long it takes to get to its fruition. It takes at least 25 years for them to get built out. It could take longer than that. It just depends on how the markets are going and what's needed. There's some industrial and business park type land use proposed along the northern portion along Peterson Road. There's a town center area off of 60, kind of south of that, southeast of that pond on the west. And then they're proposing to keep the farmstead. That's already, that's been in the family for since the mid 1800s, and then there's other housing types that are mixed in. So each of those blocks can be of various different types. It can be townhouses, it can be 6 flats, they can be single family units, duplexes. So just a number of options, and the blocks will work for a multitude of those. And we can certainly explain more if you're interested and want to get in contact with me. So a couple of other items of interest. I'm hopefully rounding this up soon, but I would be remiss if I wasn't pointing out some of these other things going on in the community. So we are very fortunate to be Midwest first location for padel. It's a racket sport that is really starting to gain popularity in the US. It has a lot of popularity in South America and Spain, other parts of Europe. And so there's one that is sponsored by Wilson, that's on Tower Road here in the village, and they just opened this late last year, and it's a phenomenal business, and I recommend trying it out for sure. They have instructors on site, they have a little cafe, they have workrooms, so if you want to actually do some office work in a side room and then go play padel, you can definitely do that. There's also LA Fitness opened, where in part of the old Burlington Coat Factory, GFS Flooring Supply took over the old DeCarlo's liquor store, and then Tropical Smoothie Cafe is opened up next to Chipotle. Kid Empire took over another portion of the Burlington Coat Factory. Orange Theory is over at Mundelein Crossings in one of the outlots. LL Flooring is also at Mundelein Crossings. Conquer Fight Club is inside the CFX gym at Town Line Square near Kid Empire and LA Fitness. Barn XO was renovating 30,000 of vacant space at 750 East Route 45. That's been vacant since I started at the Village 16 years ago, so it's been a long time waiting for a tenant, and we were very pleased that Barn XO, which is a local business that was looking to expand, took over that space and is doing a phenomenal renovation. We have Meadows Family Dentistry over at Long Meadow Commons by Jewel on 176, and then there's a lot of interests in outlots around Town Line Square and South Lake Street. So we're getting a lot of inquiries about what people can do at those locations, and I think a lot of this residential these residential units are stirring up some interest in the commercial. So that's a good sign to see, and we've got some healthy occupancy rates in those centers. And then a couple opportunities just to point out. So we've got Mundelein Crossings. There's still some outlots and a couple of restaurant spaces. We've got a fast food restaurant and a sit-down restaurant that are available. Shiner Group can certainly work with you if you're interested in those spaces. Patriots Plaza, that's the center across from from Salvation Army and the Garden Fresh Shopping Center on Town Line Road. That has some vacancies. It's also an opportunity for redevelopment. We have Town Line Square. There's just a little bit left in terms of some of those infill spaces, but with Kid Empire and LA Fitness taking off. So, but there still are. So GW Properties is the go-to for that one. There's some downtown vacancies. I have like a packet of opportunity sites, so when I do meet with people, I can give those to them to reach out to various entities or show kind of how you can assemble some land or find some space for potential opportunities. So if that's something that interests you, let me know. We also have at Lake Plaza, there's an outlot and some available commercial spaces over there, and that's where Jimmy John's is currently located, and a couple other businesses, Little Caesars, etc. So that shopping center, there's an outlet over there, which is on Route 45. It gets great traffic counts in terms of 20,000 cars a day go by that through that intersection. So certainly a great opportunity. We also have a couple big road projects. So 683, especially right near Diamond Lake Road and the railroad crossing. The state of Illinois has a website. You can get these diagrams on that website dedicated to the project, but they are in phase 2 engineering, which is, they're wrapping up kind of the final designs on the plans, and then they're going to start doing land acquisition. So we hope by 2025 to see some movement on there, but it's all on state's budget and timeline there. But they are planning to do grade separation at the railroad crossing, so that should improve traffic movements through there, but it will certainly take a while to get that construction project underway and then completed. And then just here's just to zoom in on that section as well. In terms of taxes, everybody wants to talk about taxes, but Village of Mundelein is about 13% of the tax bill. We are pretty good value for the money that you get. We are a high service government, so we provide a lot of services to our community members. We have our own water, our own sewer plant. We have our own, we have Lake Michigan water. We have in-house, public works, engineering, planning and zoning, finance. So all of that is done in-house, but when you call the village, you have somebody to talk to. We do, we have snow plowing services and help ticket requests for, issues that are out in the community. So there's certainly a lot that we do. We have a great police force, great fire department. We have good response rates. So all those things are very important, and hopefully people see that value. And then in terms of just finances, the village has been pretty steady in terms of finances, trying to keep things as even as we can. And you see the big dip, particularly as the recession really hit the village's finances, trying to make sure that we were doing our best to keep things, low and in control. But as we've had more projects, more demand, inflation, road projects, and the inflation in the last couple of years has certainly contributed to us having to increase what we need to get things done, just our regular normal level of operations. And then pensions, you'll see that's gone up. That's largely the state mandated pension funding, particularly for police and fire. That's where a lot of that increase is from. And then our property tax rate, that's the per $100 of EAV, what we charge, and we're at $1.45, and that's really come down quite a bit over time. So since 2012 at $1.48, and then it went up to $1.62, and then back down $1.45. So still trying to be very fiscally responsible and get a lot done with the financing that we have. Large vacancies. So talk a little bit about vacancies. Touch a little bit on everything in this presentation, I know. So bear with me. If there's more you want to talk about, definitely reach out to me, and I'd be happy to go further in depth on anything. But we've had quite a bit of removal or filling of very large vacancies. Oak Creek Plaza was demolished. That was 200,000 square feet of vacant retail space. The former Burlington, when I first made the slide, was 50% occupied, but now with Kid Empire really on their way, that's more like 60 to 75% occupied. And then the former Elite Motors on North Route 45, that's now occupied by Autoland. The former O'Reilly Auto Parts now is occupied by TrueSave. And then if you look at the southern, as I said earlier, the East Route 45 at 750 East Route 45, the Barnexo occupying that 30,000 square feet of vacant retail space is just phenomenal. So in terms of just rates in general, so we have commercial occupancy rates, and these are numbers that we track as a village. So we track all the vacancies that we have in the village. If there's new business or a business goes out, we have our own spreadsheet, because I've noticed over time that some of the other data sources don't update as frequently, or maybe they're not as in tune. I know that there's an entire Chicago region and probably like 9 people that update those databases. So we started keeping our own data. So total occupancy for Mundelein, 91%, and commercial only, we're at 90%. Downtown, 84%. Some of that are some larger buildings, like we have a building on North Lake Street. There's 2 buildings next to each other. One's a larger industrial space that's almost 30,000 square feet, and that's there's a proposed project there, but it hasn't been demolished yet. So we still keep it on our site as vacant, because we until that project's moving, we haven't reflected it here. And then industrial shows 91.5, but this is actually higher, because we have that project on Allenson got filled, and then if Bridge gets filled, then this will be back to like 97%, 96, 97%. So those spaces are certainly getting gobbled up again. But like I said, we have hopefully along that Peterson corridor and perhaps North Winchester, some opportunities that potentially we could get some additional industrial spaces. If someone's interested, reach out to me, and we can hopefully get something together. So the largest vacancies that we have was Bridgepoint, as I mentioned, and then that 739 North Lake Street, 28,000. The former Staples out at Mundelein Crossings, and there is some renewed interest in some of these areas, so we're excited. And then there's some vacancy in some of our smaller industrial spaces, but we anticipate those to get acquired or re-tenanted pretty shortly. And then just a little quick couple notes on activity that we've seen within the village in general. So with the building department, so we have a 5-day minor permit turnaround. Usually we hit that in about 3.9 days. We get a 90% success rate with that. We've also started to change some systems over, so that's kind of delayed some of these permits that we typically have done really quickly, just because us learning the new systems, some of these have kind of gotten lost in the cracks, but luckily we've been able to get them, and once we realize that, we'll get them out, usually same day, if not the next day. Then in terms of just permits in general, we've had 2,600 permits for the Village of Mundelein alone. We also do services for Long Grove and Hawthorne Woods, so over 3,000 permits processed through the village. We've performed over 3,000 inspections just for Mundelein, and then another 3,400 for Long Grove and Hawthorne Woods combined. We've responded to almost 1,000 complaints, and we've done 92.5% of all non-residential properties were inspected by our part-time fire inspector program, which is a newer initiative that we have done, and it's been a really great program that keeps everybody safer. And then in terms of our shared inspection services, so just an idea, this is kind of the area that we work in. Mundelein building inspectors do Hawthorne Woods and Long Grove. They do their plan reviews, and then they do the inspection services. And then we also, Mundelein and Long Grove, contract together to do planning services. So the plan commission, architectural commission meetings, and review of plans and compliance with zoning codes and signage, etc. And then I would be remiss if I didn't give a quick shout out to our safe city and our police departments. So Mundelein has been rated within the top 100 safest cities. We rank number 29. We have a great police department, a lot of great opportunities there. We have a very successful Citizens Police Academy and Latino Citizen Police Academy that people can go in and learn about the police department and understand, what happens if, you get pulled over, what's the right protocol, what are some top tips to stay safe in your community, locking doors, checking on cars, things like that. So it's a really good program that our police department initiated, and they do a great job with that. So, and with that, I want to say thank you for sitting and hanging in this long with me. If you have questions or need additional information, you can reach out to our economic development team. We do have an economic development commission, which is fantastic, and they can also serve as a resource, but in terms of staff, we can put you in touch with Eric Gunther, he's our village administrator, myself, Amanda Orenchuk, Taylor Wagren, he's our senior planner and economic development commission liaison, Colleen Malik, she is a senior planner and our Mundelein Arts Commission liaison, and Jess Marvin is an associate planner, and she also serves with those commissions as well as additional support staff. And you can reach out to planning generally at 847-949-3282 or planning@mundelein.org. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.